Well, we're just on the other side of that full moon energy that came in at 13 degrees Gemini. And I hope you are tapping into the new energy that it's introducing. There's some interesting layers to it, but I wanted to dive into the Sabian symbols tonight, because it brought something back around the bend in the most unexpected way and introduced a master maker that's here to teach the collective how to hold our creative power, how to really work with it, and not just work with it, but actually honing our craft, honing our art, our creative energy in such a way that it becomes the tempering medium itself. It becomes the very thing that shapes us and makes us into who we are here to be. And I just thought it was really wild the way it came in. And as soon as it came in and I saw what the Sabian symbol is for this particular moon and the lunar cycle it's kicking off, I just knew it was time. It was time. The Sabian symbol for 13 degrees Gemini is a great musician at his piano, and immediately it made me think of Prince. And Prince's energy has been wanting to come in for quite some time. And when I looked into his chart, I thought that was some pretty excellent timing for his energy to introduce with this Gemini supermoon. It is the brightest moon of the year, and it is quite a beauty. I was out gazing at it earlier, and it's like a beacon. It's just like this beacon of beauty in the sky. It's making me feel like there's something beautiful on the other side of any transformational process you're going through right now. Even if you feel like you're in that state of mutability and you haven't really come into your new form or seen your path come into view, it's still veiled from you. There's something brewing there. It's a thing of beauty, and I want to dive into that energy, but I looked into Prince's chart and I thought, of course, we're riding that swell of the grand water trine pretty much through the close of the year. So we're in this for the ride. We got the ticket. We're going for the ride. We're having the adventure. And he is a Gemini sun, and he's also a Pisces moon. And he's a Scorpio rising, so he carries a lot of this water trine energy that's activated right now. I mean, we have Pisces up in the north node. Saturn just went direct, and so we are facing one last lesson before the new introduction of energy. And so there is a little bit of this vibe like, there's a test here. Did you really get it? Did you really get the lesson? And there's something that if you did get the lesson, it fundamentally shifts here. It's a really important juncture. But with that energy, there is something coming in with Saturn forward here that says one more thing before you prepare to set sail there. And it is a sense of sailing. There's a sense of embarking on a journey that is coming in here. And very fitting that Prince's energy would come in relation to that as well, with what I'm going to bring in here. His moon was in Pisces, yes, and so also with the Neptunian energy, the dreamy energy, and we talked a lot about bringing the moon, the lunar essence, to the surface. And so that lunar essence that is Pisces is really at the surface right now. and we're all getting acclimated to those waters, and we're all in the process of learning a new kind of flow. Even if we're not in familiar territory, some are very comfortable with the water, some are very comfortable with the deep end, some operate on different levels. They favor one elemental quality more than another. But one way or another, we're all figuring out our flow as we move through this water trine territory. And there's the air in that water trine too. It got kicked off with the grand air trine back on October 13th. What was really interesting though was to find out that he's got Scorpio rising and that he has Venus. Now, this is what was really wild, is when it came to searching out his Venus placement, there was a lot of discrepancies there. A lot of discrepancies, you know. I saw many say that he has his Venus in Taurus and that it is in his 7th house. So I thought that was pretty wild, the 7th house of Libra, and also, you know, the Taurus energy there as well. So it's like both of the signs that Venus rules over. So a lot of Venusian energy there, which seemed really fitting. And especially with the climate we're moving through right now, where we have Uranus and Taurus. So this is really looking at what we value, and also looking back, reflecting on lessons that hopefully we've grokked something from that initiated back around 2018. So I just thought that was a really interesting correlation, but I saw other, you know, astrologers say that his Venus is in Aries, and I saw another astrologer say that it was likely in Scorpio. So, you know, it's a little all over the map. But I thought that was kind of funny in and of itself, because Prince has often said that, you know, people say a lot of things about him and write a lot of things about him, and, you know, don't even really know what the real deal is with him, who he really is, or what the truth is, and what's fiction. And he said he doesn't really feel like sorting any of that out, because at the end of the day, you know, why does he need to do that? You know, it's not of any consequence to him what other stories people tell about who he is. And that's somebody who's very self-possessed, you know, somebody who's in full authority in their own life, and how they see things, how they perceive things. He said he preferred to just let people be confused, you know? And he was very enigmatic in that way. And enigmatic can be quite charismatic as well. People are always drawn to something that's a little in between, you know? And we're very much in that kind of like in between liminal space here. So there's a lot that can seem like it's shifting and moving subversively, but just because you feel the energy shifting and it's something that hasn't quite broken ground yet, you haven't really seen how it's getting rooted in your reality, that doesn't mean that there's not something something quite dreamy there, like a dream finally coming to bloom. You know, you have to let things show you what they are, and I've always felt that way too. It's interesting that Prince had that perspective, because I feel the same way. It's like you can tell people until you're blue in the face who you are. You can pay it lip service, but ultimately what really defines a person isn't what they say, it's what they do. You know, it's how you show up. That's what really makes a difference in perspective. If you really think about it, you know, if you think about what has more of a lasting impression on you, something you've heard about somebody or what you've actually seen them do. And So I think that that's kind of interesting how that energy came forward. And I know there is a tendency for a lot of people to get caught up in that, worrying about their reputation, worrying about how others will see them, what they'll say, you know, how that can affect them, how that can negatively impact them. But in a way, it really only impacts you if you allow it to have power over you. And that has a lot to do with where you place your value system. So if you're somebody that puts a lot of credence in accolades and getting approval, validation from others, then yeah, you know, that puts a lot of power in the hands of those who would like to spin their stories about you for whatever reason. But if you don't place the value there, if that's not why you do what you do, then what does it matter? What does it matter what people say? And Prince also said that he really valued criticism from intelligent sources. And I'm seeing him do his, you know, classic side-eye there, because it's like, if you got people that are just tearing things apart, just for the sake of tearing things apart, and they're not really coming from a place where it's sort of like, well, what are you doing? You know, what are you contributing? What are you putting out there? You can't really put a lot of credence in that, but sometimes, you know, somebody can draw your attention to something and you can have a look at it and you can go, you know what? You're right. If I, you know, sort of looked at that in a new way, I could see a better way to do that. And so it is about being able to have enough humility and openness where you can see other perspectives. But there's a difference between constructive criticism and people who just like to chatter, you know, that kind of energy. And I thought, you know, as I dove into looking into some of the things he said, because his energies come in quite strongly for me for a while, and I really like to connect with, you know, their truths, what they've actually put out there. When I have these different people come in that have already made that transition and have broken on through the other side. So I always bring in their quotes, you know, because I'd like them to be able to tell their story. And I thought, you know, I kind of want to dive into this full moon energy and really merge it with the Sabian symbol kind of archetype, and let Prince be. Let Prince be that great musician at his piano, kind of serenading us as we move through this lunar cycle and guide us in how we can really master our craft. And so I dove into his astrology and then looked into his quotes and some things he said and how he felt about things. And I thought we would use it as a kickoff point for a reading, just like a conversation with the cards, and see what comes on through. But yes, that particular Sabian symbol is all about aspiration, inspiration, and it's really about understanding how do you work with your energy. Do you direct your energy outwardly? In other words, you put on a certain face or you adopt a particular persona in order to get what you desire, and you try to appeal to people outside of you? Or do you instead turn that energy inward? Do you take it to a place of inner reflection where it gives you no other choice than to act out of a place of self-determination? Because if you're not dependent on getting the flattery or getting the accolades, then that's something that is sourced from a much deeper place within you. What you're aspiring for is not dependent on the approval of an outside authority. It's really about kind of following your own track, trusting your road, having the confidence to really step onto your road in what you choose to set in motion in your life and how you choose to live your life and what are the fruits of your labor and what you put out there, and to have the freedom to not have any kind of outside authority telling you what that needs to look like or what is acceptable in how you're pursuing that, to be a self-determined individual. And if you think about it, there's not many self-determined individuals in the world. It takes time to become a self-determined individual. But if ever there was an example of a self-determined individual, it was certainly Prince. And if you look back at his music, he speaks a lot of the challenges he faced. Nothing came easy to him, but he always believed in himself, you know, and that's what happens when instead of looking for the connecting point outside of yourself, you look for the affirmation within. It takes you to that place where you have to fall back on yourself. And when you do that, it's really something that's born out of the very grit of your being, you know? It's something that comes from your marrow. It's not something superficial. And when it comes through in that way, it comes from the most authentic part of you. And that's where the power is, when it's sourced from within like that. So just thinking of all this Venusian energy that we've had in play, and this rebirth of Venus sort of flow that we're moving through. And it's really wild. Even with that, the mother's belly is swelling. I've been having this phrase come in, and this is why I'm so fascinated by the Sabian symbols, because I find that the symbolism already comes in for me before I even look into the Sabian symbols. I've been saying this phrase for a few weeks now. The mother's belly is swelling. And the means of expansion for this particular Sabian symbol, in other words, in order to work with this energy and to maximize its potential to really work with that kinetic motion that's in the ocean, so you can be that tidal wave of change in your life, there's this quality of nucleation, the forming of the nucleus of that atom of positive, negative, neutral energy, the seed of creation that you plant out there in the quantum field that sprouts into that field of multiplicity and then magnetizes that reality into form. That energy right there, the inception point of crystallization for all that you have been brewing and stirring in your cauldron of creation, because you're not focusing the energy on affecting what's outside of you, but instead the craft itself, what you're trying to master, whether that is mastering your music or mastering your motherhood, since the energy already introduced itself, or mastering your painting or your stories that you're writing, or whatever is your craft, whatever is that thing that you feel is your calling, something that gives you a sense of purpose. And it's likely something that you do just for the sake of the pure enjoyment it delivers to you. It feeds something within you. It brings you a certain peace. It brings you a certain equilibrium. And it floods you with abundance. But that abundance, it's not something that always takes form in the way that people seek. And that's when you look at the energy more externalized, right? When people are very much focused on getting those accolades or getting the perks of having some kind of recognition or notoriety, having the outer trappings that, you know, Prince made it pretty clear, end up really being things that bind you, things that put you in a position of servitude, things that slowly strip away your freedom, which is why he was so fixated on freedom to create as he saw fit, freedom to produce his own works, freedom to write his own scripts, to also just be the one who was totally in charge of his vision, not having any outside interference from others' ideas that could corrupt that or could taint it or slant it in some way to appeal, you know, in the sake of appealing to a wider audience. And maybe that would bring in more revenue or more traction, but at the same time, it also degrades it in a way, you know what I mean? It's that quality of losing a bit of the magic of it, a bit of the treasure of having this vision, this seed of potential come to full fruition and staying in that place of its purity. And that makes me think of earlier, we had a download come in where purity was in reverse. There was something there that needed to go through a little bit of a transformation process. There needed to be more clarity of vision. And I really feel that this is tying into this. And just speaking of that purity of vision, one thing that Prince said was to create something from nothing is one of the greatest feelings. And I don't know, I wish it upon everybody. It's heaven. And see, that's really letting you know when you don't allow the vision to be corrupted, when you do the work for the sake of doing the work, right? Whatever that is, whatever inspires you, whatever you aspire to. If your aspiration is set with, I'm doing this work because it feels like total energetic alignment. This to me feels like absolute, complete alignment with my soul, This is when I'm feeling like I am most in touch with myself and source. And this is when I feel that sense of peace and joy and harmony. This is when I find that place of equilibrium. It's that thing that you do just because it brings you to the essence of yourself. And I think that that's really powerful. And it's something that people don't often think about because it's not the way that we're programmed. Yeah, we're not programmed that way. We get hung up setting our sights on a target that we've been told this is what success looks like. This is what it means to progress in society. This is what it means to be at that arrival point. And yet we might not be recognizing ways that we've already reached certain arrival points and how there really is a need to honor that, to respect that. And who says you're nobody? And why is it so important to be somebody, you know? And who defines what it means to be somebody anyway? And maybe there's something actually more liberating about being nobody. Because if you're a nobody, then you haven't had any labels like slapped on you. And so you're not limited. You're not confined by those constraints of other people's ideas of acceptability or how you're meant to express your vision, how you're meant to share your essence and who you are, how you're meant to live your life. I think there's something really powerful about that. And I feel like there's a lot of this desire here to, you know, recognize that and transform this idea of what success has been. And maybe that's one of the lessons that's really coming around with Taurus hosting Uranus at this time. Really understanding maybe that certain values have changed. You see different things as success. I feel like if I'm at peace, that's success. If I'm experiencing joy and laughter in my life, that's success, you know? And the abundance for me doesn't necessarily have to be the outer trappings, although those things are nice, you know, but they're not really what matters at the end of the day, at least not to me. What matters to me is a sense of engagement with my life, a sense of connection with my life, a feeling that there's something meaningful that I'm tapping into, pouring myself into, that it has meaning for me. That to me is what really sparks some kind of what I can only define as purpose, drive, aspiration, ambition for me. And there have been times on the way there when you can get kind of, you know, distracted. You think, well, maybe, you know, I need to adapt my vision in order for me to be able to get somewhere with it where it can kind of get its legs. Anytime we start to do that, and there's times when I've explored that on my path, and I've just recognized the way it totally takes me out of alignment, out of harmony with myself. And so we really are truly, at our core, self-directed, but we like to pass the buck a lot, you know, and we like to feel that the way that we're held back has more to do with outside energies, you know, outside structures set in place that act as limitations, outside opinions, but really it's about how you calibrate it. If you view the success or you view the fulfillment as the acquisition of some kind of outer stamp of approval or sign that, yeah, now you've made it, you know, this is what it means to lead a purposeful life, then you're always going to feel like even if you do acquire that, something falls flat. But if you're self-determined and that's your referential point, like, yeah, you know, I feel really good about how I'm walking forward on my path. I feel really positive about how I'm applying my focus and how I'm feeding my life and what I'm growing. That's a whole different kind of success and empowerment and progress and point of arrival that can never be defined by outer trappings. And that's why you'll find so many extremely successful people that aren't successful at all. They've become a slave to the grind, you know? And Prince pointed that out too, you know, very boldly in an industry where, you know, you're not supposed to talk about such things. You know, he was a truth teller, and he showed up and he made it clear that, you know, being self-determined is where it's at. And so I thought this was just such a perfect energy for him to come in as a guide, because he really exemplifies that. I think he was like a living testimony of what it means to move into the expansion of this Sapien symbol and this energy that we're moving through in this lunar cycle. All right, so the goal, the objective at this time is unbridled creativity. And it made sense to me when I kept seeing that vision come in my head of riding a horse bareback. It was like from the point of view of me being the rider, you know, and just seeing my hands holding on to the mane and just feeling at one with the horse that symbol of the journey, Rido. It really made me recognize, once I put it through the framework of the Sabian symbol, that that's the spirit we're meant to grok. And it reminds me of that card that's in my fairy tarot. Let me see here. I know I'm shuffling this other deck, but maybe there's a card near this one of significance. My If Wishes Were Horses, the Dreamers Would Ride card. Let me find it here. We're doing this on the fly, man. I want to bring it out because I feel like that's the energy we're meant to grok here. And that's the energy that will actually pull our chariot forward too. It's the energy of the chariot moving through the waterway. You could say a little bit of Sidon's chariot coming on through, navigating this big swell of change. It's also creativity and cleansing and transformation, and also kinetic flow. There's so much we're learning in our time in the water, in the grand water trine. There's so much we're learning about what we are a conduit for here and what we take into our energy. So this is really interesting. Is this another time where the card's gone missing? This is so funny how this happens sometimes, but there must be a reason I'm meant to go off on some kind of tangent here. So let's see. Where is this card? Where did this horse go? Is that what is missing? The horsepower. That makes sense. It's like you can't get the horsepower to move forward because you are the vehicle. You are the vehicle. It's not like there's some ride that's pulling up to take you there. The momentum comes from within, but often we look for the momentum to come from without. And that's the difference between where you put your point of focus, your orientation for building your power. If you derive it from outer circumstances, you're always going to be dealing with a fated hand. But destiny comes into play when you determine that you are the seed itself of your potential. And is there ever really like any arrival point? Well, not necessarily, you know, because when it comes to really mastering your craft, the goalposts always move. The goalposts of possibility always get put further down the line because you're not meant to stop, you know, you're not meant to be static. You're meant to continually evolve and go through this transformation. This is wild. This is wild. The horse is what's missing. That card is missing. It's missing in action. Wow. I am really finding this quite fascinating. Hold up. Wait a minute. One more time. I'm going to search through it one more time. But the horse has gone missing. So you got to run down a dream. Yeah, you got to run down a dream. It's kind of coming through like that. Like, I don't know. This isn't a horse you can tame. This horse doesn't have reins on it. This horse is free range. This horse is out there like a wild Mustang, just running in wide open fields, you know? You can't catch that ride by reining it in. Remember, you're meant to master the riddle of the reins. Master the riddle of the reins. That's what this is, okay? There's something about relinquishing control around how you define success and stop relying on the framework of needing it from outside approval, input, you know? Stamps. Ah, there it is. Yes, stamps of approval. There, it finally came in. The air merging with the fire. Page of Wands. It's a new learning cycle in relation to this. Like, what fuels your fire? Is it coming from outside of you, or have you learned to fuel your fire within through your inspiration? See, this is the key. This is the kind of shift we're having here that's coming in. This is what Sagittarius season is bringing in. And you see, when you come from that place, it's a power that ultimately is shared because of what it lights up in others as well. When you come into perfect alignment with what gives you that sense of inner affirmation, and you live your life in that way, what you do, how you show up, and you walk that walk without the need for others necessarily to give you the backing, and you're able to do something like that, you're able to take your vision and you keep it pure, and you go through quite a growth process with that. You know, there's a lot that goes into running down a dream. You go through a lot of challenges. The path of the dream itself is a journey of power. It awakens a lot in you. It does challenge you, and it's meant to challenge you, to temper you. Also, for you to constantly come to these points of crossroads where you have to reflect for a moment before you chart your next step, before the next leg of the journey. And I really feel like this is kind of where we're at right now, because what we're going to be moving into at this time is the waning moon cycle. That's a time when we do a lot of integration. It's going to lead us up to that new moon in Sagittarius that comes in on the 19th. That's when it's time for this new learning cycle. This is when we'll have our horsepower back, you could say, and we'll be in a position where the source of affirmation that we need to come on board, we finally recognize it. Not in another's affirmation, not in outside approval, but because we hit that place where we're like, yes, yes, this is completely aligned with me. This is yes. When I engage in this, when I focus on this, when I embody this, when I put my energy in this direction, when I make this change in my life, it's just a yes for me. Everything about this is me. This is an extension of me, the truest part of me. And maybe for some, it's a part you've never shown to others, but it is the thing that gives just this sense of fulfillment. And when people see you operating from that space, your light lights another's light. It makes them realize that they have a light they hold too. And maybe they want to shine that forward, not because they are seeking any kind of external gain, but because the light compels to be shared. And it's just a natural flow of the energy for that light to awaken the part of you that wants to nurture it, that wants to fuse it with the heart. And that's where we get that quality of the heart fire. It is the quality of the heart of source merging with your fire of inspiration. It is the cauldron of Caradwen. There's something here. There's alignment coming in with that new moon. But this process is underway. You're running down a dream. And maybe that involves having a little look at ways that you've been searching for it before. Ways that you've been searching for it before. And asking yourself, is my creativity unbridled? Or is it reined in? And if it is reined in, what did I give the reins to? What outside authority did I give those reins to? Whether you're looking at something that you do want to create, a work of art, a labor of love, a project that just feels like this is it. This is why I'm here. This is my mission. Whether that's a life's mission or this is my mission right here, right now. I feel the force compelling me to do this, and I have to go with that force. And I can't stop focusing on this. I can't stop pouring my energy into this, because the work itself is my vehicle. And I might not have the reins. I don't know where the work will take me. I don't know where it's going to have me wind up ultimately, but that's not the point. The point is the momentum itself. It's the kinetic activity. It's following the motion of the energy. And that's what sets you off on this journey and also aligns you with your path of power. And coincidentally, the path of power is the same thing as the path of heart. It's fueled by your heart fire. That's where your horsepower comes from. It's really a very beautiful energy. Very beautiful energy. And there's something here that Prince said in relation to this, in regard to freedom, because we look at concepts like freedom and we have certain ideas about it. And yet we don't understand how they can also be things that give us too much freedom, can also work to our detriment. One of the things that Prince said was too much freedom can lead to the soul's decay. And that's because we don't get our fire through just sort of resting on our laurels. It never works like that. We get our fire through challenge and always coming back to that place. Is this the authentic expression of who I am? Am I showing up as I am? Is this something that does feel truly in alignment with my soul's essence? Or do I have to compromise my truth? Do I have to somehow conform in a way that does have me out of alignment with my true path of purpose, or what I know to be in alignment with who I really am, outside of what anybody else may think of it? You know, discipline in honing your craft is a gateway to self-transformation. People don't recognize that, how devoting yourself to really mastering a skill, becoming a master at your craft, and it can be anything. You could want to master communication because you recognize you don't have a healthy communication style in your relationships, or that's something you really struggle with. And mastering the art of communication, really sitting with that and learning how to respond, learning how to listen, learning when it is the right time to speak up, when it is the right time and place to hold a boundary, how boundaries can be sourced from love. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, that sometimes boundaries are necessary to create room for growth too. There can be a boundlessness in boundaries, and that can sound sort of like it's a little bit ironic, but it really is true. Sometimes boundaries are what is needed to expand. And that can also be viewed as intimacy too. So all of these qualities coming in here. But there's also that rebellion, right? There's that sense of rebellion. Rebelling against outside authorities that create a climate where you have to rein in your vision, or you have to somehow distort it or distill it in such a way where by the time it's gone through that distillation process, it bears little resemblance to its initial inspiration. And so this is the energy that we're working with here. He had a pretty powerful quote in relation to that too. I wrote down his quotes because I really wanted to bring in his words. He said, sometimes ideas are coming so fast that I have to stop doing one song to get another, but I don't forget the first one. If it works, it will always be there. It's like the truth. It will find you and lift you up. And if it ain't right, it will dissolve like sand on the beach. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? If you ever think about your inspirations, the ones that really matter, even the ones that you procrastinated on because you kind of got all tabs open at all times, and so you do a little bit of this, you do a little bit of that. Have you ever had that moment of everything kind of coming together, coalescing and coming together in such a cohesive way where even where you were doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it seemed maybe that you were working on separate things, but then you realized that no, these are all little details of one grand vision. You have this moment where you realize the intersection points, and then it all comes together so harmoniously in the most beautiful way. And yet the root of that, whatever the initial inception point was, that nucleation point, right? Where you just started to form that nucleus that was going to be the inception of what would be crystallized in your outer reality through what you were setting in motion there. It all comes through in such a way that defies logic. It completely defies logic. And that's what lets you know that you're bringing a little bit of the divine down to earth. That's that kind of musing inspiration that's coming through. And you don't have to worry about losing that inspiration, because if it's pure, it will remain. And if it was something maybe that was inspired by the acquisition of something that is kind of irrelevant, doesn't really matter, you know, at the end of the day, it is easily discarded. It easily washes away. So there's also something about this, coalescing of moments in time, the sands of time, coalescing. And some of those sands you're using to build castles, and other sands are just being washed away with the waves of change. And there's a real interesting momentum developing with this. But the key component is that in order for us to really activate our path and to activate this magic that we hold, where we can birth things into being, we can shape reality with our thoughts, and where we direct the energy and where we look for the affirmation, whether we look for it outside of ourselves or whether it's sourced from within and our own inspiration. There is a need to allow any barriers to the true, authentic expression. You got to go beneath the surface here. You got to go all the way down to your bones, like what you're really feeling in your bones. If the mask is being worn and there is this clamoring for progress or this need to hold on to some kind of outer affirmation that this is the correct way to utilize your energy because it gets you some kind of reward, then it's just like a dog doing a trick to get a treat. You know, it's the same reason why I don't feel right about asking for things like subscribes and a thumbs up and this kind of energy. And I did work with that for a brief window of time on the channel. And I did it because I was just told that that's what you do. And so I thought, well, I want to get the messages out to the people who do need to receive them. But then it just didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel authentic to me. I thought, if I like something, I know I like it. And if something resonates with me, then I'm going to tune into it. And I'm going to want to support that creator. And I trust that other people will do the same. And those who don't, for whatever reason, and they still tune in, well, is there anything wrong with that? No, not necessarily, because they're still getting the message, And that should be the whole point of the impetus for why I do what I do. I do it for the sake of doing it. I do it for the sake that I'm called to do it. And that really shifted my relationship with things. And I was like, I don't care. I don't care if that's the way that everybody else does it. I don't care if everybody else does their thumbnails like this. Or I don't care if everybody else does their readings like this. Or that they think this is the way, it must be done. I don't want to do it that way because it just doesn't sit right in my body. It doesn't feel right. It makes me feel like I have to be something I'm not, and I'm not comfortable with that. I can't show up like that. So it's that kind of energy. And that may make you, subject to scrutiny and criticism. But yeah, just remember what Prince said, only value constructive criticism. Constructive criticism doesn't tear you down. Constructive criticism comes in to build you up. And a lot of times that can be somebody recognizing something in you like, you know what? You have this gift that you hold and you're underutilizing it, It's when somebody will pull the fire out of you. They'll make you realize like you're kind of selling yourself short. Like you got so much more to offer here. Why are you limiting it in this way? That's more a constructive source of criticism. But if you tear somebody down in what you offer up as a critique, that's not coming from a place of empowerment. That's coming from a place of wanting to disempower others. So, when you're looking in terms of feedback that you get, you always have to bring it back into yourself and ask yourself, is it true? Is it true? And a lot of times when people start to explore this, it's scary territory. I get it. When you stop trying to people please and you stop trying to get approval from others. And a lot of us have been hardwired this way. And I used to have a lot of issues with that myself, man. And then I just got over it. And I was like, you know what? Not everybody's going to like you. You know what? There's going to be people that judge you the moment you walk in a room before you even open up your mouth because of their own BS and their own biases. There's going to be people that you antagonize, and then there will be people who celebrate you. They get you. There will be people who want to see you go to the next level. They feel their own sense of inspiration in seeing that. Why? Because their aspirations are in the right place, So these harmonization points are coming in. It's really about stripping things down, though. It's taking away pretense. It's getting back to a pure essence of who you are. This is the journey opening up. And there's times that it can feel really lonely. But there's a lot to learn about what it means to walk alone. And it's time, Don't let yourself be buried in those sands that are getting swept away. Because you're building from a place of what you think will give you some kind of dominion in the material world. And instead, build it from a place of the call within you to go into the fire, to go through that radical transformation where it's like, yes, okay, I'm facing a block, man. I'm facing a challenge. I'm trying to birth this dream into being, or I'm trying to heal this relationship, or I'm trying to, of course, at first, heal yourself. But for some of you, this has come in. You're in an active process. You've done the work on yourself. And now you're in the process of really healing with another. And you recognize in that process, it's not just going to be like some straight descent, whatever you're trying to do here. If you're trying to transform your life on any level, or you're trying to bring a dream into reality, whatever it is, you're going to go through challenges. There's going to be times when you feel blocked, when you feel angry, you feel frustrated, you feel like, what's the point? And it's that moment when you're sitting there at the crossroads where you have that choice, that's your moment of self-knowledge. How well do you know yourself? Is what you're desiring to transform coming from within yourself? Or are you feeling like throwing in the towel just because you're not seeing the outer progress the way you think it should be showing up? Even if it's showing up in such a way where you feel like, man, this is just supremely challenging. It's also a bit of a litmus test. Because if you're still invested and you're like, this is hard, but I still feel like I have to do this. Because when I turn the energy inward, everything is saying, no, this is what I'm meant to do. This is my soul's directive. Well, that's what's lighting your soul on fire. You know, that's what's tempering you. That's what's having you master that road. And the road is rising up from you. Then you know that your orientation is on lock. That's when you're coming from a place of inner defined aspiration. And that's really the key to working with this energy at this time. But if you tap into that place and you really do feel like throwing in the towel and you're like, oh, well, forget about it, you know, I just can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. Well, in some way, maybe there's a need to accept that whatever inspired you to head in that direction, maybe, you know, it was for a side quest. Maybe there was something you were supposed to learn through the experience, but it wasn't in alignment with your purpose. It wasn't connected to your heart fire. And there's nothing wrong with that. You learned something from going down that way. And there is like this sense of going through a transformation, seeing something you didn't see before, because it used to be operating subversively. It was operating in sort of a very stealth way in your subconscious. And somehow the light filtered down there in the deep end and you saw a little bit of treasure there. You pulled it up. It was a pearl. It was a pearl of wisdom. And now you're plucking a diamond out of the void. Diamonds and pearls, you know? Diamonds and pearls. It's opening up a book of knowledge within you. And there's also a new story that's ready to be lived here. And it's the story that's been written in your soul. But you'll know because as you see your dream running off, you're ready to run down that dream. You're not going to get washed out to sea. Not when you just got washed up to shore after all you've been through. Did the great bard Taliesin give up, throw in the towel? Did Merlin? I don't think so. You know? No, this is where it all begins. But you only know if it's your true path, if you're willing to face the challenges, if you're willing to fall and still feel like, nope, I can dust myself off, get back up, have a look at where I went awry there and figure out a new way to move forward. It's like the path becomes the thing that is your master. The path you choose, the way you walk it, it will teach you everything you know. And if at any point it feels like it's out of alignment, that's what clues you in that your path is not being sourced from the heart. It's coming from a desire to It's coming from a desire to acquire some kind of symbol of power from the material. And those things don't really hold any power. They only hold the power that we invest in them. And for some, they become idols. Greed is what's driven them. They idolize their material acquisitions, and yet there isn't really any true power in them. And on the flip side of the coin, ironically, when you operate from your most authentic place, all storehouses of abundance open up for you. The vault of abundance opens up for you. And the abundance is not just limited to the material. It comes in the form of an abundance of knowledge, an abundance of growth, an abundance of wisdom, an abundance of healing, abundance of giving, abundance of receiving, abundance of hope, abundance of renewal, abundance of connection, an abundance of meaning. There's no limitation. That in and of itself becomes a kinetic flow of abundance where the potential is always moving further and further into the horizon because it's limitless. It's limitless. And there's always something new to aspire to. There's always more growth. There's always something new to learn. That's when you truly are on the journey. When you enter into that flow and you become that kinetic energy in motion. When it's not coming from an artificial place, when it's coming from something that's rising up out of you. You know, Prince also said art is about building a new foundation, not just laying something on top of what's already there. It's like breaking new ground, and you're breaking that ground within you. And only you know what's at the foundation of what you're creating, what you've built your dreams upon here, what they're rising up out of. And this is about really trusting your own inspiration here. You don't need to seek it outside of yourself. You don't need anybody else to tell you where to find it. You don't need anybody to give you the fish. You just need to learn how to fish. You need to learn how to fish. You need to learn how to, find those waters within you that are teeming with life. That's the catch, That's the big catch. That's what will feed you forever. And it doesn't just nourish you. When you live your life from that place, when you share yourself from that place, when you bring that aspect of yourself into your relationships, when you engage in that way, everybody eats, man. It's beautiful. But when you tame yourself, when you water yourself down, when you try to appeal to what is acceptable, when you're too worried about falling in line with the dictates of others and what they view as being art, or what they view as having value, or what they define as being successful, then you don't really have freedom. Then you're chained. You're chained to somebody else's idea of what your life needs to be. And this is what we're in the process of freeing ourselves from here. But I like this, man, because I do think we have the strength to break those chains. And sometimes those are generational chains, things that have held our ancestors back from really fulfilling their dreams. You got another shot at it, kid. You got another shot to be a break in the link of the chains that have held those back who came before you. And they too fought hard for the road that's available to you now, and that strength, it works through you. And that brings in another thing that Prince said. Prince said, a strong spirit transcends rules. And you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. You don't need to look toward a guru. You don't need to look toward a reader for the answers. When I bring in a reading, it's never about me saying, hey, believe what I'm saying. I'll read the energy. But it really is about you tapping into your own intuitive knowing. I really want people to always know that that's where your true empowerment lies. It's in trusting your own intuition. You all can grok the future, but you don't find it by trusting somebody else's vision of what's meant for you. You do that by dropping into your own essence. And you might not have all the directions about where you're going. None of us ever do. We can spot trends. We can spot patterns. That's a lot of what energy is all about in terms of how it comes through in a reading. We're reading patterns, you see? So there's a key here when you're looking at the messages coming out. If you're like, well, I don't want to bring in that pattern. I want to break that particular chain. I want to experience something different. I'm ready to clear that fog that has me feeling like I'm always moving in error, or there's some karmic price for me to pay because somebody else has determined that. And that's all a bunch of, bullshizer. Nobody can tell you what your karma is, and anybody else who does think they can met that out and define that for you is a little too invested in their egoic perspective. And really, when it comes to self-mastery, even beyond mastering your craft, mastering the ego, is where it's at. There's the need to have a healthy sense of ego to be able to operate in this world. If you're completely out to lunch, you won't be grounded out at all. And then you'll just wander off into the alfalfa, which can be a delight, right? But it doesn't really get anything done. It doesn't really, it doesn't till the field, you could say. And that's how a lot of crops get spoiled. If you want to really plant something, a value in this world, it does require you to, have a good sense of footing here. And that really begins by making all things sound within yourself and trusting your own sound judgment and trusting your own intuition. I hope that when I bring readings in, what it does is it sparks points of exploration for you, that it gets cogs turning, that it has you looking through a different reality tunnel, a reality tunnel of your making. You can make it whatever you want to be. I speak of the patterns of energy that's in play in the collective and how it's currently expressing itself. And there's a lot of people looking for answers when there's this lack of clarity around the fact that it's the not having the answers that is the path, because you see, it brings a little bit of heat. It brings a little heat. When you don't have the answers, all you can do is fall back upon yourself. All you can do is trust your instincts. All you can do is go into alignment with the kinetic flow and asking yourself, does it feel resonant? Does it, or does it feel off? And if it feels off to you, a particular path or a particular person or a particular situation or a particular line of work or a point of focus for you, it doesn't mean that that's wrong or that person's wrong. It's just, it's not for you, man. That's all. That's all, So moving into the unknown itself, to be willing to kind of feel your way through when you haven't really got the light yet, the light of inspiration that does help you have a point of focus as you head on down that road. That's part of that inception, the inception of what will later be crystallized. It does take an act of self-determination. That's what moves the energy out of this place of befuddlement into passion-driven purpose. Mm-hmm. You have to go through that valley of the shadow to get to the star, to get to that hope of the star, right? Yeah. I like this. When I see this card now, it feels a little different to me, through this lens. This is what I love about this deck, because same deck, but just the symbolism. It can mean so many things at any given time. And that's what art is like too, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Meaning is also in the eye of the beholder. What we attach, the labels we attach to things, it It comes from how we're relating to the imagery or to what's being expressed, what we're seeing, and how we're internalizing that, and how it resonates with us and what it lights up in us. And that's why it's so helpful to look at how you're reacting to the stimulus that's coming in around you. I like this here, the former child star burning the bridge that they thought used to lead to success. Because they're recognizing that can't really define my soul's essence. This is doing what you need to do to maintain the integrity of your dream, maintain the integrity of this seed that you're planting during this cycle, that you're just in the process right now of kind of creating that nucleus around, you know, to hold that potential and what it can be once you plant it with the Sagittarian new moon. And I think you're recognizing that some things that you used to really aspire to, you're ready to burn those things. You're ready to transform those pursuits, you know, because they were more in alignment with a younger version of yourself, or a part of yourself that wasn't tempered by the road you've been on. And ironically, you know, that garden path led you there. So there's always a purpose, even if you go on a side quest. Ultimately, even points of diversion eventually will lead you, if you're conscious enough, to your point of focus. It's kind of how the energy is coming through there. Let me see what else wants to come in relation to moving into expansion. I thought, especially with all the messages that have been coming in around technology, and with Pluto being in an Aquarius, there's a lot that comes in relation to technology and sharing on the World Wide Web and how that's received. And of course, we have a lot that's not authentic right now. We have a lot that comes through AI, and that lends a sort of atmosphere of smoke and mirrors. And I got Ted wanting to come in. Hold on a minute here. Ted wanting to come in at 1:11:38. There's that synchronicity. This piece is key that's about to come in here. Come on in, Ted. Fetch wanted to bring in his energy. I used to just bring him in with me, but now I've made it so he can choose when he wants to come in and when he wants to have, you know, freedom to his own space. Okay. So, yes, this piece with the lines being blurred between what's authentic and what's AI and all of this kind of energy, the smoke and mirrors, the World Wide Web. There's a piece that Prince brought in relation to that where he said, technology is cool, but you've got to use it as opposed to letting it use you. And I thought that was really a powerful statement, because it's true. You know, it can become one of those things that really just, you know, it feeds off your creative energy and then it uses it against you in the form of the algorithm. And there's a lot you can learn just from looking at your algorithm, looking at what's coming up in your feed. You can learn so much about what you've been aligning with. And that's an interesting point of reflection too. That's something that I've done recently, because it shows me what I'm kind of nurturing and what I'm focusing on, where I'm placing my awareness, where I'm placing my intention. And it's sort of like a reflection of my inner reality showing up on my feed. And I've done a lot of cleaning up work on my feed, and now my feed is much different than it used to be. And I feel a lot different. It's really changed my point of orientation. It's changed my experience. Yeah, I burnt the bridge of connectivity to those things that weren't authentic representations of who I am at my core. If it was full of drama, or if it was full of negativity, or if it was full of what I felt was just an energy that perpetuated more complacency, more idleness, then, you know, it had to go. I've started to bring in stuff that helps me expand, you know, helps me look at things in different ways. I've been doing a lot of studying and also, you know, getting offline and opening up a book, you know, and experientially, you know, getting out into the flow of life there. But I just think it's a really interesting tool, and it's a way to look at it too. It's like, are you using technology as a way to connect, or are you using technology in a way that's just about acquiring the outside validation? And that's really going to influence, you know, your experience online too. And the quality of who you connect with, you know, all of that. It really is a reflection, and it can be a trapping, you know. Yes, it can be a trapping when you're like Templeton and you're eager to feast at the smorgasbord, you know. But this is embracing a new kind of flow to get you where you want to go, and starting to set your sights on different things, you know. This is really harmonizing with not the barbs of the thorns, but the sweetness of the bloom, that thing that has you energetically moving into that space within you where you're not tight in the bud, but you experience this sense of inner unfurling. And that has the same result on your life and your connections and how you show up. It's really cool energy. I'm going to do one more round here. See what we got. Anything else that wants to come in around this? But yeah, too much freedom. Too much freedom can lead to the soul's decay. It's good to have a discipline. It's good to have a path of purpose. It's good to have a way to know how to temper even that when it is time to just be completely unbridled and enter that creative flow, and how we can work with that energy of Saturn in Pisces to bring some discipline around this. That's a beautiful way to harmonize the energy. And I feel like that's really what Saturn's been trying to teach us about moving with this energy, that we need to make sure we're making time to feed the part of us that does instinctually feel driven to give our time, energy, awareness to what is really like filling us up, giving us that sense of enjoyment, peace, purpose, drive. You know, it's the thing you do. It's the thing that interests you. It's the thing that you keep focusing on when you have spare time. That needs more discipline. That needs more space held for it. That needs more boundaries around it, where it's preserved as time when you can really sink into that, because that's where a boundary gives you freedom. Gives you freedom. So there's so many paths of exploration that are opening up in you, and there's a lot that's going to start to heighten in terms of your instincts about how your energy's wanting to be expressed, and what your next step should be, and what feels really in alignment for you, where you need to go, who you need to connect with, what vision you need to root in your reality, and the steps you take to get there, what that looks like. It's all coming from within you. And I really recommend that you nurture that quietly within yourself. It's not about sharing it with others. It doesn't need to be shared with others. A lot of times people want you to share everything that you're in the process of creating, and yet the moment you share it is when you present it, when it's ready to really be shared with others. But when you're in that inception phase, When that nucleus around this seed of potential is being formed, it's so important that you preserve that, the intimacy of that. There's an intimacy in that, in order for it not to become distorted, where suddenly this inspiration that was mused becomes homogenized and distorted to fit in within the framework of what would be viewed as acceptable. You know, something that you're creating, or an action you're meant to take, or something that is driving you forward, a change you want to make in your life. You know, there could be something about it that could seem a little rebellious, or it could disrupt the status quo, and yet maybe that's what you're meant to do. Maybe you're here to be a little bit of a merry prankster. Maybe you are here to be a bit of a rabble-rouser. And so if you let too many other people, or even one other person, into the purity of your creative vision, or that seed of life you got that's just starting to really make you feel like, all right, I think I have a sense of inner direction now. I have soul recognition of my inner direction. If you let even another into that space, it can compromise the vision. It can compromise the vision. Forget about other people stealing it. Sometimes it can be stolen just purely by it becoming polluted by the input of other people. You lost the purity of that vision that came in just completely unadulterated through your connection with source. You know, so there is something here too about recognizing, you know, you got the whole world in your hands, and there's many different pathways of exploration with this, and there's many different possibilities coming into view for you, and all of these paths that are opening up for you, they do bring about a real transformational change in your life that is quite enduring. And in fact, there's a lot of fluidity to these paths. They don't ever arrive at a point of stagnancy. But what I actually find is that eventually they all merge into something that, you know, where you couldn't see it before when you were trying to figure out how it would all come together, because it was a bit of trying to grok a mystery. You do see the end result when you're, you know, standing on that cliff top. I'm like seeing an image of the Two of Wands, you know, something that at one point was just an inspiration has actually become the aspiration. You see the materialization of it, and it came through your works because you created something from nothing, and it turned out to be one of the greatest feelings that you ever experienced, no matter what you're giving birth to here. It's real beautiful energy. Very, very wild, very feral, untamable. It moves so much in harmony with Lilith in Scorpio right now too. And Venus in Sagittarius, you know, just really going boldly, boldly where no one's ever gone before, you know, just really ready to push the envelope a little bit, see what's possible. I mean, if you're dreaming it up, if it's coming into your conscious awareness, if it's building that fire within you, there's something to it. It's fueling your horsepower here, and it will take you places. And it's something that's going to rise up from the ground of your being. And it will end up being the thing that crowns you with your success. And what that means to you at the end of the day might be something very different from you first starting out on the road to what you thought would be your culmination point. Your dream also, your initial dream, may be going through revisions, alterations. You know, some of that may have come from constructive criticism, maybe even constructive criticism that you delivered to yourself. Ways that you recognize, like, I got a little off the mark with that. I was more inspired by how others were trying to sway me, and I took that in, and that distorted my vision. All right, so a lot of this can come in. And this can be in relation to anything. It doesn't have to be some kind of creative project. It's just using your creative energy, the choices you make about your life, what directions you head in, what you invest your time and energy in, who you invest your time and energy in, okay? So this is digging deep within yourself and asking yourself those questions in relation to what you feel inspired to head toward, you know? What is your driving force? What is the source of your aspiration? Is it related to having the recognition from some person or some sector of the population, some ideal, you know, that's been implanted in your consciousness of what it means to have arrived? Or is it you really recognizing, no, this is what I saw, and now it's here. And Prince is right. That's pure magic. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it when you saw something and then you saw it through, and you faced all the challenges and all the times when you could doubt yourself, or where you felt like you got it wrong, where you had to course correct, and when you finally get to the ultimate vision and you recognize even the slips, you know, the missteps and the reroutes and the side quests, that ultimately they all took you where you were meant to be. That's when you really do recognize the interconnectivity, and that it all has meaning and it all has value. You know, you always get to choose your reality tunnel. You can look through a nihilistic reality tunnel and say, none of it has meaning. It's all a bunch of BS. And, you know, having a fatalistic view isn't a very rewarding way to live your life. Or you can look through a reality tunnel that says everything has meaning. It's all meaningful. And when you look through that kind of reality tunnel, it changes the terms of engagement. The goalposts go further down the line, and that's a good thing, because it makes you realize that there's more possibilities than you can currently see right now. It removes the limitations, and it opens you up to that free-spirited energy. Let's get some numbers. Let's get some numbers, and I'm going to go ahead and roll the letter dice too, and get some additional messages coming in. I mean, this to me feels like a pretty good culmination of the energy. What is this connected to? I mean, I already put these cards down, but this, if wishes were horses the dreamers would ride, really wanted to connect with this card here. So what is this? Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's going to be time. It's going to be time soon to make that choice. Are you going to allow yourself to get washed away with the sands of time, or are you going to break on through the other side and enter the fire of transformation and blaze that trail? I mean, I think you're going to blaze a trail. I really do. I don't think that you're going to hold yourself back. I think you're ready. You're ready to experience something more and just see what you're capable of here. How you can transform your reality. And I think there's something that does come in here that gives a little boost. You know what I mean? There is some like lucky turn of fortune here that puts just enough wind in your sails that it makes you feel like, yeah, maybe I can go for that next port. Let's continue on the voyage here, okay? Let's get some numbers of significance. See how they want to come through here. Roll the dice a bit. Yeah, I like this. I mean, moving on up, moving forward, not being held back, setting things in motion, entering that kinetic flow, the kinetic motion in the ocean. You're going to ride that wave of change. You're not going to be in the crossroads anymore. Life Path 6 also makes me think of the choice or the levers. This is finally making a choice. The choice may also involve communication, strong Gemini energy coming in. This is something that does give your kicks some wings. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're getting that forward momentum coming from Mercury there. You may even feel a bit like you're walking on air, like something about the way you move forward. It has a little bit of elevation to it, you know? There's elevation there. There's lightness in stepping forward on this path. It's not burdensome. It's not heavy. It lifts the energy up. This is also a clue to when you've hit the mark, when you have come into that place of alignment. Also, you know, we got Sagittarian energy here, the ninth house coming in, moving into that expansion, being just a little daring, you know, being willing to challenge things just a little bit, being optimistic, you know, having that confidence where it's like, yeah, you know, even if I mess up a little bit, I slip here and there, it's okay, because I know I'm the comeback kid. And I'll learn something from it. I'll pick myself up. I'll dust myself off. I'll try again. And we also got this energy coming in here, of course, with Jupiter in Cancer. It's still retrograde, right? But it's bringing about retroactive blessings. And the blessings are coming from really understanding what you've held all along. It's just time for you to really externalize it, you know? Put the energy into it. Ignite the heart fire around it. Create more space for that thing. Pour yourself into it. Cultivate that path. And as you do that, you know, it's automatically going to turn the wheel of fortune for you. Oh, this just turned and transformed to 4, 10, wheel of fortune. Okay. Wheel of fortune energy. That's interesting how that happened. And I mean, we've had the synchronicities, the clues coming in with 10. So yeah, we did also have the house of Virgo was out there coming in really strongly. Got the house of Capricorn coming in too. Absolutely. You know, Saturn's direct. This is the work at hand. This is the new flow. Right? And that house of Cancer, you know, there are treasures that are coming in here. There is something that gives a little bit of momentum that feels like, okay, the wheel's finally turning. I'm not stuck in that same cycle. And it's not a spin cycle. There's a little bit of fire here. There's a little bit of passion here. And there's upliftment here. You know, it's like the air is finally merging with the fire. And I like this because we've needed the fire. So we got the air, we got the fire, and we know we got plenty of water. So that's when we can really hit that point of alchemy and we enter that state of liquid fire. That is the transformation point, just like magma, you know. Magma meets with the ocean and it forms new topography. And that's what it is here. It's what's rising up within you through the ground of your being. It's merging with your fire, your heart fire of inspiration, and then it's flowing into that ocean of emotion, that kinetic flow that's coming from that grand water trine that's really feeding the heart source there. And that's what makes it grow. That's what makes it grow. That's when it roots in its purity of vision. Okay. And so this is what it really means to purify the waterway. It's about you. What are you a conduit for? What are you focusing on here? What are you focusing on here? Something is absolutely coming into that state of like the 4 of Wands, that arrival point, you know? And there's stories we tell ourselves about, oh, what would be the fairy tale ending, or what would be that culmination point? What would that look like? And in some ways, you know, our own egoic ideas around that, which often can involve, if we're really honest with ourselves, like traces of how other people would perceive us arriving there, it can actually act as a limiting force. So the more that we can be open to interpretation of that arrival point and just trust the flow of the inspiration, you'll be really surprised where you end up here. Really surprised by where you end up here. Okay. April, June, and October of 2026 could mark key points of arrival in relation to this nucleation of the dream, this initial inception point here. Something will be crystallized. I feel like it happens in stages. And then I think of October, and it makes me think of the butterfly migration. So yeah, something really takes off in such a way where it has a butterfly effect at that time. You don't recognize what you're setting in motion right now, but you see the full magnitude of that by October of next year. Really cool energy. Gemini energy came in pretty strongly too. There's a lot communicating right now, but it's communicating in many different ways. So it's important that you're able to be observant and that you can listen and that you can be in tune as well, you know, with what is being broadcasted, you know. What are you picking up on the ether? How are you receiving the information that's coming in from what's showing up in your day-to-day life, on your path, you know? Try on that reality tunnel for size and just see what happens as you move through the cycle. What if you use that as the inception point for the nucleation of your day? What if you said, okay, today, everything, absolutely everything that I encounter has meaning, See what comes through. Sit with that. Sit with that at the end of the day and see what it brings through for you. You could try the converse too. What has no meaning? No. I mean, there's a dark side to everything, and it's necessary. You know, there wouldn't be light without the darkness. Darkness is what birthed the light, right? So there's a harmonization point there, and it is the balance of nature. So might be interesting to play with that as well. Maybe work with those two polarities and see how it puts you in the center of you in that creative flow of energy through just engaging the witness around that. See what comes through. Okay. Let's get some messages. See what comes through. If names come out, they can just be names of different people that might be significant. You may not know these people. They could be people that make their way onto your path, and it might come through to just sort of jog your memory at that time to pay attention that something meaningful is about to go down, or there's an important connection point coming in. It could be speaking to you directly, or just highlighting something for you. Again, trust your own impression, how it's received, right? All right, let's see. Yes. Right out the gate, art. Make art. And above that I have see art. See art in the ordinary, you know? Just simply the way you live your life is a form of creative expression. Don't limit your expression of creative energy by thinking that it has to fit within some parameter of what is considered art. Art is how you use your creative energy and what it produces in your life, you know? We can use our creative energy in such a way where it feeds into Maya, the grand illusion, okay? This could be something that's coming in for someone named Maya. Maya, how she spins. You know, you might be operating out of a place of illusion. You know what I'm saying? In that what you have does not have creative value. What you hold does not have creative value. But when you move in partnership with life, everything becomes art. Simply the way you show up becomes art. There's something about entering into a state of creative flow. And I don't know why, but I have Met here in relation to this. So it makes me think of the Met Gala. And this is making me think of perhaps a fashion designer, somebody who maybe feels like they are not at that arrival point because they haven't been invited to like the Met Gala or something that is like the equivalent of that, like the stamp of approval. Well, now you've arrived, you've made a valuable contribution to society or the world of culture and art, right? This isn't about that. There's you need to see the art in what you do, whoever you are, okay? And it doesn't have to be coming through for somebody named Maya, but I couldn't ignore this right there. It is coming in very strongly, but Maya is the illusion. And what we're looking for here is to tap into that stream of moksha, liberation, when we free ourselves from the illusion that prevents us from seeing all the beauty that is on offer, all the creative energy that we do hold, and all that we can create with it, all the possibilities that it opens up for us. And possibilities are a great thing because possibilities are the very thing that awakens the dreamer within us. It sets those horses galloping on the fields of creation. It's what gets us on the journey, you know, it's what gets us on the road here. So see also, can you see the art in your life? That might be a good motivation point too. Interesting. I got MGM here. So see, there's a lot coming through about the industry. You know, you could be a filmmaker. You could have this desire. You have the desire to create a movie and you want to put it out there because maybe it has a message. It has something that you want to really reach a wide audience with because you feel a sense of purpose around this. You feel like it's something that can bring people together in a common vision, something that uplifts humanity, empowers others in some way. It can feel very much in alignment with your purpose. And now is the time to get outside of the box and stop seeing as success as only if I make this movie and then, you know, somebody picks up my script and then it goes to, you know, production with, you know, a major entity here. And then I show up on the red carpet and, you know, I mean, that's a fanciful dream. There's nothing wrong with that. But can you see how just to start to write, you know, the screenplay and then see where that carries you and maybe to start to film some scenes or maybe even just to film the initial opener, you know, like a teaser, you know, can you see how taking the little steps and learning about things like production, how that's a path that will constantly recalibrate your point of focus and let you know if this is something that you really do burn for, because you'll find a way to make that movie, even if nobody ever picks it up, even if it's just you shooting it yourself. And even if it doesn't end up with some big production house, does that mean that the creativity didn't have any value? Absolutely not. It's the fulfillment of a dream. And it's what it awakens in you through that process. It's what comes through that process. Yes. There's growth, right? There's growth that comes through this process. This growth has value, right? It's not about what you gross in terms of profit. It's in terms of what you yield in the growth that the experience gives you. And the two are really one and the same, because once you enter that flow and you're aligned like that, you'll find that everything you need is provided. It's usually the way that it works, but it's challenging, you know, because our conditioning can get in the way at times. Right. We got roots coming in here. And this is important too, you know. Remember your roots. Remember your roots. Remember the inception point. This is something you should never lose connection to. That inception point of your initial inspiration. Don't sacrifice that, man. Don't allow that become distorted unless it's something that grows out of those roots through your own internal process and nurturing this vision, right? Nurturing your next steps and how you choose to put this creative energy that is your free will into motion. There's a gift that comes through, but you don't know what that gift is yet. It's a mystery. Allow it to be a mystery, because I assure you, what you receive through this is going to be much greater than you would plan for yourself. That's what giving yourself over to the flow delivers to you. See if there's anything else coming in here. I think that's what I got. And that feels really complete to me. So right now, there is an partnership forming between your soul's essence and a little something divine that you're musing. And if it's not here yet, be aware. Look in your environment for that seed of potential. Pay attention. Get in touch with what you feel. And practice what we brought in here. Experiment with it. Just try it on for size. Create adaptations to meditations. Adaptations to the kind of reality tunnels you put in place. Trust what surfaces within you. And notice how when you engage in this creative way with life itself, and you set a certain view of what creates the meaning to your day, when that's sourced within you rather than letting outside factors pull you here and there. When you set the intention for the day, you know, everything that occurs today has meaning. That changes the way you show up. You know, just the same as everything that I encounter today has no meaning. It really will be a calibration point for you to help you also start to understand the creative power that you do hold, all right? Experiment with this and don't feel at a loss if currently you're like, yeah, but I don't have any inspiration right now, or I don't know what that thing is that gives me peace, or I don't know what makes me feel like I'm really in my soul's essence. I'm not even sure like what my soul's essence is. And that would be a good intention, is that for your reality tunnel. Everything that occurs today, that I encounter today, is reflecting to me something about my soul's essence. Wow, that would be a wild one, okay? So just explore it, all right? Take some of your questions and reframe them and approach them in a creative way and just see how life responds around you. And you'll be surprised how much you start to move into partnership with that kinetic flow. And where that wave of change carries you will be quite a different shore than you ever could even dream up for yourself. And that's the beauty of getting the ticket and going for the ride. So hang loose, man. Might see you out there surfing. Give you a little hang loose, man. A little nod of respect for one who's daring enough to enter into that sea of change. But, you know, I like this energy. It's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of intensity too. But it's an intensity that will refine. It will take what's coarse or what is a little too sharp, what's been a little too jagged, what's been a little too disjointed, what's been a little raw. And it will tumble it, and it will smooth it, and it will polish it, and it will refine it. And I think at the end of the day, when you're standing on that cliff of the Fool, looking at the new road that's opening up before you, in that spirit of that Two of Wands, open road, the whole world in your hands, I think you'll like the view.